Hi, Misha here, and in my continuing kind of revisit of the Swedish Air Force, have all my models laid out. This time, let's look at really the first jet fighter in service. This was the de Havilland Vampire, or as it was known in Sweden, the J-28. De Havilland's Vampire here was the second operational jet in the RAF, and it was actually quite a success for de Havilland as far as the international market. They would build over 3,200 of these, and Sweden was one of the major purchasers. In World War II, as we saw, they were using biplanes and later monoplanes, but they were all prop. But the Swedes stayed abreast of things. They knew early on and acknowledged by 1944 that piston engines were on the way out and jets were the future. And so they actually started work on their own projects. For example, they worked on putting a ramjet in their J-21, which is originally a piston aircraft, and they would start a project that would ultimately become the Saab Tunnan, the J-29. But by 1945, they quickly realized that these would not be available for some time, and that they needed something in case World War II led to something else, which of course became the Cold War. So they began looking at what was on the market at this time, and there were not many options if you wanted a jet. So they quickly decided in early 1946 on de Havilland's Vampire. It was small, economical, used one engine, had good performance. It was about 31 feet long, had a 38-foot wingspan, 4 20mm Hispano Mark II cannon, and like I said, it had the one Goblin engine, max speed of just under 550 miles per hour, so not a speed demon, but again, one engine. Other jets at the time, to go any faster, needed two, and it had an altitude of about 42,000 feet. So good performance, and it was economical for them. So they placed an order for 70 of the original F1 or Mark I model, designating it as the J-28A. Now, originally, they just bought these for training and experience, to kind of train up experienced jets, learn, on them, and then they were hoping that the Tunnan would be ready by the end of the decade. But one wrinkle. Turns out their pilots and even the generals in charge of this Swedish Air Force really liked the Vampire. It suited them well, their needs. So while they continued their own projects, they decided, when in 1949, that an updated version, known in the British military as the F5 or FR or FB5 rather, internationally marketed as the Mark 50 for the export version, appeared, that they would buy some of these as well. And in fact, they bought 310. Now, the Mark V was the fighter-bomber variant, had an uprated engine. It could also carry two 500-pound bombs, one under each wing, and had a few other updates, like a different tail and whatnot, and just a more refined version. But the Swedes, again, wanting to go their own way as much as they could, actually manufactured the engines in-country and shipped them over to de Havilland in England for installation, so the Swedish version would have its own engine. They also would switch from the Hispano Mark II to the Mark V cannon, which had a few product improvements. And a few other small changes were made to this end. This new version was adopted as the J-28B, which is this model here. This model is 172 steel diecast, as all these are, from Herpa, or actually Herpa or Hogan. I get all those mixed up. Herpa, Hogan, JC, they all use the same tooling. It has gear in the down position. The wheels do move. Nice kind of paint job. Pilot, but the cockpit is fixed closed. I was only a little bit disappointed. I was hoping it came with optional drop tanks. But it is all metal, including the tail, whereas on a Corgi, it is more polymer back here. So while the Corgi Vampire models do have gear up or down, and sometimes removable tanks, the Herpa, Hogan, JC, I think it's Herpa, don't. And these don't come with a stand, although you can buy one extra. It's a little bit. But they're the only ones who do a Swedish J-28. And I like it. I think it is a little overpriced, though, to be honest with you. So they would have 70 of the original A's. They would have 310 of the original B's. And for training and maybe reconnaissance, they purchased 57 of the two-seat version from de Havilland, marketing it, designating it as the J-28C. Additionally, they would take 12 of their J-28Bs and convert them by replacing the front to two-seaters, and these would be designated as the J-28C3. So a few versions. And de Havilland was pretty quick to fill this order, and the final Vampires were delivered to the Swedish Air Force in 1952. And with all of these coming in, they completely replaced all piston aircraft in the Swedish military. And by this time, the J-29 was also coming online. So, already by 1956, the J-28 was kind of being sidelined. And of course, post-Korean War era, this jet is over a decade old, and it's becoming dated, as you would imagine. So they started using these more for secondary roles, namely training. A little bit of scout reconnaissance, but mostly training. So a lot of the fighters were retired out of frontline service, but trainers were kept in for a long time. This made a good trainer. And so it really didn't cease being that an advanced jet trainer until 1968, at which time pretty much all remaining Vampires were done. They were worn out. They had fulfilled what they needed to do. And they were ready to move on to newer, bigger, better things. But yeah, Sweden was one of the major users, with roughly 437 total in service. And this was the first operational jet in the Swedish Air Force, so if nothing else, it holds a place for them there. Yeah, I wanted to show you this. I had this model. This model was just released and I had it come in. Again, I like that it's all metal, has a nice paint scheme, pilot, moving gear. It's a shame that the gear can't be up or down, and it's kind of weird that they don't ship it with a basic stand. And it's a little pricey for what it is. This, to me, should be more of a $30, maybe $40 model, and it's more like $50, $60, so take it as you will. But it's kind of a boutique thing. There aren't many Vampires in 172 scale to begin with, and even fewer in foreign livery. Most of them you find are the RAF. So take what you can get. So what do you think of it? And for more on the Vampire, I've done videos featuring British service, so you might check those out. The Swedish Air Force is fun, though. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And as always, if you could, like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha. Catch you very soon. Next time.